Welcome to the Develop Yourself podcast, where we teach you everything you need to land your first job as a software developer by learning to develop yourself, your skills, your network, and more. I'm Brian, your host.
Hey, Brian here. And before we get to today's episode, where I interview Carly, a former Parsity grad, a person I've actually worked with on an externship through Parsity, and learned about her story, how she went from retail to hardware to freelance web developer with the skills she's learned through Parsity, I want to tell you about a couple of things going on at Parsity that you may be interested in. If you've been looking to learn how to code and getting stuck on learning JavaScript, please join us at Dev30. That's DEV30.xyz. It's a program that's going to teach you the basics of JavaScript, prepare you to actually join a program like Parsity or really any other good program out there. It's one of the best things you could probably do for $50. Check it out, join it, and I hope to see you there. I'll be in the Slack channel along with our amazing director of engineering, Laura, who also will hold weekly live sessions. Pretty nuts we offer all this for $50. Another thing I've been thinking about is having a Python program, and I really want to get your feedback on this. If you're not part of the newsletter, please go to parsity.io, scroll to the bottom of the page, and just join the newsletter. I write stuff there every week to people, and I have a little poll going on. But if you reach out to me and tell me, would you be interested in learning Python for data engineering? If so, should we do a Python 30 program? The same thing as Dev 30, same price, same structure, just with Python this time, as we consider adding a data engineering program. Okay, that's enough for me. Let's get back to Carly and her amazing story. See you around. Well, Carly, thanks for showing up and being a guest on the Develop Yourself podcast today. Really excited to talk with you about what your journey's been like, after Parsity, being on the job market, learning to code in general, and kind of what you've been up to after bootcamp. Because a lot of times we hear like the success stories of people, like once they're into their career, like I talk a lot about like what it's like now, but it's always interesting, I think, especially now to hear from people that are like in the thick of it, that are on the job market, looking around, trying to get that first role after they get out of a bootcamp and what that's like. So thanks for joining us today.
Yeah, of course.
So you went to Parsity, graduated. I've worked with you a little bit through like an internship project as well, which is really cool. And I've seen the work you do. You're a great engineer and a great person to work with in general. What's it been like since graduating, and what have you been up to?
It's been hectic. It's been really fun. I've been on and off the job market. I think my timing was a little poor because all of these layoffs and everything happening now, it seems like just job hunting in general has gotten a lot more difficult. I also, when I decided to do Parsity, the job I was at, I wasn't really happy there anymore. It was kind of getting a little toxic and I didn't see any future there. So Parsity was kind of some insurance, taking a bet on myself and trying to like make a plan for the future so that I wasn't stuck there forever. And so
nice.
In the process of also planning a wedding, I started going to Parsity. And then I also started my job search because I was just impatient. So
Wow.
I started job searching before I finished Parsity, like in the middle of it, towards the end of last year. And I actually got really lucky. I found a position as an engineer at a really great company. So I don't code in my daytime. Like during my day job, there's no coding. I'm more of like a hardware engineer. So I'm a system designer for a home automation company. But it really worked out. I'm really happy with my company. They're wonderful. And I never imagined that I would find something that great in that industry. So,
Awesome.
yeah, I finished Parsity and I'm really proud of myself. And I kind of like changed my plan after finishing. So I've been doing some freelancing. I've been job hunting here and there for contract works and things like that to supplement my income. But I'm so happy with my company right now. I just can't imagine ditching them. So
Wow.
that's where I'm at.
That is
Yeah.
really cool. Yeah, I saw that you were in hardware, and I'm just curious. Like, I wrote something on LinkedIn a while about like learn to code and become like whatever. I think we think learn to code, software engineer. I'm like, there's QA, data analyst. I see a lot of data analysts, but also product management. There's all sorts of things you can do. Freelancing, entrepreneurial, other efforts.
I was working retail and it wasn't going anywhere. I wasn't happy. And I never finished college. I never went to college because I was too afraid of the debt and I didn't know what I wanted to do. So I just did a lot of retail work in my early 20s. And I finally reached the point where I just wanted any job that I could sit in front of a computer instead of talk to people all day.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So I went on a really intense job hunt. I must have applied to like 300 plus jobs. My keyword search was like computer.
Oh
Like
my
just
God.
anything that has to do with working on a computer, I was willing to do it. I applied to so many jobs and I got 2 interviews and I got 1 job offer, and it was for a company in San Diego that does high-end home automation. And the reason they hired me was because in my cover letter, I talked about building my PC.
Oh,
Um,
very cool.
yeah. So they hired me. They were like, you understand things with compatibility and hardware. That's what we need. So we're going to hire you and you're going to help our engineer, make plans and just basically be an assistant to our engineer. And it was a smaller company. So I started there. And in the 3 years that I worked there, I worked my way up to engineer and programmer for them. So I taught myself how to program their systems, and they sent me to all the trainings and everything. And it worked out. So I just learned everything about that industry. And that's how I was able to find this better job with this bigger company now in the past year.
Wow. That's a heck of
Yeah.
a like windy path, which I think is actually kind of normal. I think people don't really have a linear path towards really anything. I've met a lot of people that go from all sorts of careers, whether it's, legal or medical or software, hardware. That is a windy path. What like led you to learn to code? Was it one, the frustration with working in retail, or was it you already kind of working in a related field and you thought, I want to learn to code now? What led you to want to learn programming?
So the first time I tried to learn to code was when I still worked retail, and I found Free Code Camp.
Yep.
Like, I think right after it came out, it was like the first version of Free Code Camp. And I went through those courses probably 1 or 2 times, but I would always fall off once I reached JavaScript. It's like
Oh,
I
yeah.
would cruise through all the HTML and I'd
Yeah.
cruise through all the CSS, and then I'd get to JavaScript and just be like, man, I have to try too hard at this part. And then I would just kind of give up. Um, yeah. So after that, like I knew I had kind of a coding mindset. I understood the logic and everything like that. So when I started working for that automation company, working under that engineer, I wanted to move up in the company and I wanted to make more money, honestly. And
Yeah.
so
Fair.
I started learning to program, and the engineer kind of challenged me with like making schematics and programming and things like that. I asked him to show me some examples of schematics. He's like, okay, I'll show you some, but I don't expect you to make any for like at least another year. Like you just can't do it. And I was like, okay, watch me.
Challenge accepted.
And so I started, yeah, exactly. So I started doing that. And then I got them to send me to like the introductory class. So the programming I learned at that job is proprietary to those systems.
Gotcha.
It wasn't like JavaScript or anything like that. Some of it was loosely based off of like C++ and C#.
Okay.
But really weird, really archaic. If you looked at
I
it,
could imagine.
you'd be very confused.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, I started doing that and I liked it. And then it just got really stressful and really busy being like the main programmer.
Ah, okay.
So I started drowning kind of quickly after that.
Wow. Okay. So yeah, then that's a typical kind of pattern I see or path I see. People at Free Code Camp or Code Academy. And then things are pretty smooth until they hit JavaScript. What is it about JavaScript that you found really confusing to learn? Because I did too, for sure. Everybody does, but I'm curious what you found the most difficult.
Yeah, I don't know. I love solving puzzles and solving riddles and things like that, but I still kind of run into the same frustrations. I think it's the same reason that I really hate leak code. And those kinds of questions is because like I'll just stare at the screen and I'll rack my brain. I'll try to think of the best way to do it, and I'll eventually stumble through and find a solution. But then when you look up the right solution, the one that you should, talk about if you're ever presented that problem in an interview, you just memorize the answer. It's never the solution anybody lands on. So it feels like reinventing the wheel to me for a lot of that stuff. It wasn't until after I got past that and started actually building things. So when I reached the point in Parsity of doing React,
Yeah.
and Redux and that kind of stuff. I was like, okay, this is cool. Now I get it. Like I'm not just modifying arrays, you know?
Yeah, it's really conceptual, and I feel you
Yeah.
on that one. It gets like it's this really conceptual stuff, and it's hard to understand like where does this like lead to? What's the point of like knowing something like this? And I've actually gone
Yeah.
back and forth now on like how much JavaScript do you really need to know nowadays? And I don't know. I honestly don't have a good answer for it because I realized no one's really paying you for that JavaScript knowledge that's the layer below React or Angular or Vue or whatever. They're basically paying now for that layer that's on top of it, React, Angular, Vue.
Exactly.
But yeah, but I do think it's a little hard to work within those frameworks without some base knowledge of JavaScript. But I could be wrong too. I don't know. It definitely an interesting change because that's fairly recent change. I feel like in the last 5 years or so, where it's kind of shifted from like, do you know JavaScript? Like, no, we don't care. Show us you can know React.
Yeah, yeah. And, now that I think about it, another big thing that changed that helped with my understanding was the same thing. Before I started Parsity, I did Dev 30.
Oh,
So I
yeah.
kind of did that first to see how it went before I made the full commitment. And right when I signed up for Parsity and decided to start it was the same time that ChatGPT started getting really big.
Oh,
And
nice.
I can't remember what week it was of Parsity, but I was doing one of the homework problems and I was almost done with the project. And there was one piece that I just could not get to work. And I had been staring at it for hours and I just could not figure it out. And finally I gave up and I was like, everybody's talking about ChatGPT. Like, let me just see what happened. So I copied the code and I pasted it in. I was like, this is the problem I'm having. What am I missing? And it immediately pointed out, like, here's what it is and here's why. I was like, oh my God, life-changing. Thank you so
Seriously.
much. Yeah. So it's like a funny balancing act of making sure that you're not relying on it too much. But I really like using ChatGPT to explain things to me. It's hard to look up explanations for really specific things with coding. Because when you
Yeah.
Google something, you could come up with like 50 different examples and forum posts, but none of
For
them
sure.
apply to
The
exactly
particular
what you're
problem.
looking for.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's what I really like to use ChatGPT for, is if I have like a very specific problem or just a piece of code that maybe I'm like reusing from something else, but I don't quite understand how it works. I just know that it does work. Drop it in there, tell ChatGPT to explain it to me, just so I have like a better understanding of like how it's working.
That's the perfect. I mean, I'm really glad you said that because now during onboarding capacity, like I have a couple of sections with curriculum now talking about ChatGPT, but also just like a quick, like, hey, here's some good ways to use it because it is like unlocking a superpower. It used to be, like you said, you go on Stack Overflow and you'd read like, you'd try to go to the top rated comments and maybe it would kind of work. You had to toy around with it, but you couldn't get the context of why it worked. It was just blindly copying and pasting. And you can do that with ChatGPT, but I like what you said by saying, what is wrong with this code? Explain it to me, which is really, really useful, powerful. I mean, I pay for ChatGPT just for that particular reason. I still use it. I use it constantly for stuff. I can put together programs in other languages now, which is kind of cool too. I was trying to learn Rust and I was like, and Rust is notoriously difficult. And I'm having it kind of help explain that kind of stuff to me. So you did Dev 30, which is smart. I think that's one of the best ways you can probably learn JavaScript because it kind of keeps you on track, focused, and with a group of people. And then you thought, okay, I'm ready to do this. I'm ready to go into Parsity. And Parsity can be a pretty intense program for a lot. I mean, and you had a lot of stuff going on during this time. I'm always curious about how people organize their time while in a program like Parsity or any coding bootcamp. Like, do you have any tips, tricks, things that you learned while doing that, while juggling all those things?
Yeah. I mean, don't be too hard on yourself when it comes to like procrastinating or not getting to something as quickly as you want to. In a perfect world, I would code every single day, but it just doesn't happen. Like, I try to have a good work-life balance, and as much as I like coding and enjoy it, it's a balance. It's a little bit of a hobby and it's a little bit feels like work. But yeah, there would be some weeks that I would code almost every day and I would keep up and I would watch at least one video every day and be consistent. But there were other weeks where I was just busy or like burnt out from work and just didn't
Yeah.
want to. I work from home, so I would look at a computer screen all day and then switch to my other computer screen for Parsity.
Yeah.
So there were some times there where I just didn't do anything during the week and devoted my weekend to Parsity, which maybe isn't like the most efficient way to go about it.
Hey,
but
I'm glad you're truthful, you know?
yeah,
I think there's more than one way to do anything. I mean, like, I generally think, hey, a little bit every single day. I know that the reality is everybody's not going to work like that or even just be mentally ready to do that kind of thing. So
Yeah.
I get it. And you got to do ultimately what works for you. I see things that generally work, and I have a lot of generic advice. I'm like, okay, generally that's a good approach, but individually you got to do what makes sense to you at the end of the day within reason that's actually going to get you to where you want to go, you know?
Yeah,
So,
yeah. And it depends on the cohort too, because I did part-time, so I had a lot more time. The lessons were more spaced out. I'm sure with the full-time cohort, you would pretty much have to do it every day
yeah, it's
to
a
keep up.
lot. It's a
Yeah,
lot to ask, honestly. And it just depends. I mean, that's why we have two kind of different tracks to make sure we can accommodate both. And sometimes people go from full-time into part-time. And I get that too. Life happens. It sucks when
yeah,
you like are stuck. You're like, well, now I'm screwed. Like, no, you know, we can make accommodations, things like that. So went to Parsity, you know, learned to code. And then we worked on like this internship together for that barber app, which was interesting. I hope you found it interesting. I thought it was an interesting app idea. Now I have another company I'm partnering with to work on a mobile app as well. So you've written quite a lot of code within Parsity. How did it feel like on this internship working on an app that you didn't really, you know, weren't exposed to code like that? It wasn't the code you were probably used to working on. How was that
yeah.
experience?
Honestly, it made me feel a lot better and a lot more confident. It gave me more confidence. Being in the part-time cohort, I didn't have any of the group project activities that the full-time one has, since everybody in part-time is on different schedules. So it was my first experience working with a group of other people, all collaborating together on a project. And it was the first time that I was working on someone else's code instead of my own. Yeah, so
Nice.
it made me feel better with like imposter syndrome, always feeling
Yeah.
like I feel like I'm doing this right. My projects work, they look
Mhm.
okay. But maybe I'm doing it completely wrong and I just don't know. Like I just always had that feeling. So looking at like something real that people are using and selling or paying for,
Right.
um, it felt really good. And to see under the hood is like, oh, okay, like as long as it works at the end of the day, like the cleaner it is, the easier it is to service and upkeep.
Mhm.
But nothing is perfect. So it made me ease up a little bit on myself when making projects, because sometimes I'll redo the same thing like 3 or 4 times because I'll do it
Yeah.
once and look back and be like, there's a more efficient way
Make
to
it
do
this
this. I could
better.
have done this
Yeah.
a little better.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. So I do that a little bit less now.
That's really cool to hear. And that's kind of what I think the power of the internships lie. I think I'll be honest, I'll be completely honest. And I thought internships were a great way to supplement experience. But I honestly think the real power is in exactly what you've described. It gives you confidence. It says, oh, okay, this isn't like so different from what I've learned actually. Like here's what a like quote unquote real code base looks like. And here's how you actually get
Yeah.
stuff deployed. And if nothing else, you walk and say, okay, maybe I can do this kind of thing. And then, you know, I think most of us, 99% of us will be working for Google or Amazon. We'll be working for,
Yeah.
you know, potentially non-tech companies where code quality is still needs to be high, but it's not to the quite to the level of like, you know, where Google people will literally spend months on buttons. And that's
Yeah.
not the reality of most of our jobs. We need to get things done quickly. And we actually had a business person we were supporting. He had actually an event he had to go to where our code that we wrote was going to support him at an event. So we had a timeline associated with this too. It wasn't the ideal situation, but I'm glad it worked out pretty well. And it was overall fun to do. So I'm
Yeah.
glad you
Yeah.
got
It was
a
great.
good kick out of that
I
too.
enjoyed it. Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah. We're can continue to do more of those. It's fun to have more people jump into it, picking out people that have the time and, you know, desire to do it. I also, so you have all sorts of like other interests going on within code as well. You're freelancing and you're also part of Women Who Code. And I know Women Who Code actually went through like a disbandment, right? They're kind of defunct now. What's your involvement in that organization? And yeah, how'd you get involved in that?
Yeah, so before I signed up for Parsity, I started going to some meetups in San Diego, specifically basically any kind of like women in technology meetups. There are three main ones in San Diego that I try to attend often whenever they have something going on. So it's really nice to talk to other women in male-dominated industries. So like the company I work for now is great. It's wonderful. And the company I worked for before gave me my start, and I'm super grateful for that. But it's kind of an overlap of we work in construction and we also work in technology. So
Gotcha.
oftentimes I'm the only woman in the room. Almost every training I've ever gone to, I've been the only woman in the room. So it's just nice to be surrounded by other women that have that same experience. So I've really enjoyed that, and I value all of those meetups. But yeah, when Women Who Code shut down, it was kind of unexpected. They didn't really give anybody a heads up. It just happened.
That's right.
And the two women who organized the meetups for San Diego, they reached out to me. One of them I had met at a previous meetup, and they needed a website built for their new, it's called Women Coders now.
Okay.
And she was like, yeah, we need a website built. We could do it, but I thought of you first. And I thought, you would like to do it and put it on your resume and everything like that and help us out. So I built their website and been keeping in contact with them since. So that was a really fun learning experience
really cool.
to like,
yeah,
to like answer to a client. They gave me like some constraints, some requirements, like these are some features I want on the website. And so that was kind of like tricky, but fun to figure out.
What have you learned from freelancing? That's hard to do.
Yeah, it's been really fun. And most of my clients, beside women coders, all of the clients I've had are not really tech savvy. So it's actually really fun because people like think you're a magician.
Yeah.
They have no
That's
idea
right.
how it works. So yeah, it's a bit of an ego boost to do stuff like that, because they'll ask questions like, oh, do you think you could do that? Or like, I want a gallery, I want my portfolio, but I want to look this way. Can you do that? Yeah, absolutely. I'll do that. Like, I'll show it to you in a few days. I'll get it done. And I show it to them. Oh my God, that looks amazing. How did you do that?
That's really cool.
So
That's
it's been really
feeling.
fun. Yeah. And a learning experience for me, because I'm an engineer in my day job. So I don't do a lot of like client facing work. So learning to manage expectations, talk about budgets, like sell my own work has been a big learning curve, but I've gotten a lot better at it.
That's really cool. I've done freelance a little bit here and there, and it was scary for sure. Like taking on a job.
Yeah.
Can I do this? What if I screw up? I was talking to a guy actually a couple of days ago on the phone about that. You're in it. How did you get started with the freelancing?
So my wife is a massage therapist, and she was looking for a new studio to rent space from. And one of the owners that she spoke to mentioned like, oh yeah, I'm sorry, my website is like unusable. Sorry. But you can just call me. And she was like, oh, if my wife can help you with your website if you want. And so in a few days, I like threw together a portfolio website with some examples of my work on it and all of this stuff. And then I emailed her and I reached out to her and helped her clean up her website. And it's just kind of snowballed from there. So like one client turned into two, turned into three. And to the point where I kind of have to like put people on a waiting list so that I can like finish one job and then start the next.
That's really cool. So you're not on Upwork.
Yeah.
You're not like using any like Fiverr. You're just doing word of mouth.
No. Yeah.
All in the same industry?
Yeah, just like local small businesses and artists. Yeah.
See, that is smart. Every person I've spoken to that actually has done this, well, one guy I know was doing Upwork, who was killing it years ago. A buddy of mine does it. He did it the same way you're doing it. I've kind of had success doing it like that as well. You do good work for one person, they hear about it, and you're in an interesting industry because you seem like you've kind of picked out maybe a macro industry, I think small businesses. But I bet if you even went deeper and said, oh, I'm only doing spas or something like that, you could kind of, I know exactly how to make a business website that converts for, spas or artists or whatever. Everybody has like their own they think are unique need. And you're part coder, but you're probably also part like educator and business consultant, I assume, right? Like when they come to you, do they often have an idea of what they want, or, do you kind of help guide them with what's possible?
Yeah, it depends. Some clients have like a really specific idea of exactly what they want. Others just have kind of a loose idea. And I kind of have a harder time with those ones because I like figuring out the coding part and like getting it all working, but I'm not so much a designer. So when it comes to like making everything look really nice, that's where I really struggle. I spend a lot of time in like CSS or Tailwind or whatever it is, like just trying to make it look good because I know that's kind of my weak point.
Yeah, me too. I'm not the greatest at CSS, and I've kind of resigned to the fact that it just may never be. But luckily, things like Tailwind are out nowadays. It kind of, and ChatGPT, honestly, like now I'm just like, okay, I work on the functionality. I can kind of dump a whole file into ChatGPT and say, style this like whatever, and it does a pretty decent job for the most part.
Yeah, it gives you a starting point.
Gives you right? Yeah, it's not bad. Are you using like the similar stack that we used in Parsity to build these websites, or are you using something totally different, or are you using it based on the client?
Yeah, it depends. So for some clients, I'll use like a templated design that I kind of have pre-built and then modify it to what they want if it's close. I even had one client who had a Wix website that they built themselves that was just messed up. And they just got impatient. They're like, I don't want to deal with this. Like, please just fix it. So I've had a little bit of experience with Wix, which was somehow more frustrating than CSS.
I feel you. Yeah.
Yeah. And then others are just like vanilla HTML, CSS, and maybe a little bit of JavaScript. I actually just started a personal project. When I did Parsity, I learned React and Redux, and it was like an older version of React. So there's been one or two evolutions since then. So I knew that I really wanted to learn TypeScript, Tailwind, and Next.js.
Yeah.
So I thought, what a great idea. I'll make a project with all three of those things and I'll learn them all at the same time. So I've been suffering through that, but learning a lot.
That's a good stack. And also, the curriculum is now reflects Next.js and TypeScript, as well as some Redux. Tailwind it's included kind of out of the box with Next.js. I don't have like a section on that. Yeah, I was debating. It's like Tailwind is kind of like CSS, but it's a whole different mental shift. It is honestly pretty difficult to get at first, for me at least. I finally kind of fell into it. I'm still struggling
with it.
It's tough, right? Yeah. It's almost similar to Bootstrap, where it's like, okay, you have these magical classes that you add, and then just things just kind of happen. But learning how to compose it all together, it wasn't intuitive for me. In fact, I guess it's not intuitive enough for them to be able to sell pre-composed little templates that you can buy, like snippets that help you make websites, which I'm like, that's a pretty smart little side business they have there on their site.
I'm still on the fence with Tailwind. I'm not sure if I like it or not.
I felt that way with React, honestly, when I first started using it like 8 years ago or whatever, when it first came out or something. I was like, this is terrible. Why would I ever want to use this? And now the entire world uses it and I've become like a big fan of it. That's what happens a lot of times. There's some technology. It's like, I hate this. And I'm like, and eventually you either learn to love it or you just learn to tolerate it. You kind of say, okay, well, I already used it.
Actually watched a really interesting documentary about React on YouTube. I can't remember the name of the channel, but if you search like React.js documentary on YouTube, it'll be like the first one. But like super high production quality and really interesting because a lot of people hated React when it came out.
A lot of people still do. That's so funny. Watch that documentary. Yeah, if you're listening and you're curious about that documentary, check it out. It's actually like it's a movie quality documentary. I've only seen snippets of it. I've never watched the whole thing, but I maybe I need to. It looks really good.
It's really good. It's interesting, and I'm a nerd for stuff like that. So any like tech related documentary, I'll watch it twice.
That's cool. Okay, yeah. There's a guy that Theo Brown did a bunch of reactions to it, and apparently he got his hand slapped by the documentary team saying, "Hey, basically just ran our documentary in your channel and reacted to it. Please don't do that.
Right.
Yeah. So outside of freelance, you have your full-time job. You're busy. I mean, are you even like, you're on the job hunt a little bit for maybe like a typical, your traditional software engineering role, but is that a priority or is that more like, be nice to have and you prefer to do freelance or what's your plans for the future?
I have a full-time job that I don't plan on leaving. So mostly like looking for part-time work or contract work and things like that. So I think freelance suits me better at the moment, but I do get interest from some applications here and there, like completing assessments.
Yeah.
Or I've had a few interviews and stuff like that. Kind of keeps me sharp.
I like to hear that people take alternative routes rather than, a typical like, 9 to 5 thing, which I think is the most, immediately clear route to take after you complete a program like Parsity or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it's cool that you guys say, hey, I can actually apply this because learning how to write code is like a pretty, it's a coveted skill. Like in most people don't know how to do it. When you're at a bootcamp, it kind of feels like, oh, everybody knows how to code, or you get this like kind of blinders on and you look everywhere and other people are coding, but then you realize 99% of the world doesn't know how to code at all. So you have this skill that really no one else really knows that you can like charge for.
It's like having a superpower. It's pretty cool. Because if you have an idea, you can build it, which I love. So like that's what I'm doing with that Next.js app right now. It's like I had an idea and now I'm trying to build it and kind of stumbling through it.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great way to do it. It also just shows like you're the kind of person that generally does well in these kind of programs. The person is kind of self-motivated, wants to go out and learn how to do something, and then they do. What are some of the things you would tell a person that's considering going into a boot camp, like as far as like ways to be successful and things that might have surprised you from going to a coding boot camp?
Well, since I had tried to code so many times before, I think I had a better idea of kind of what I was getting into. But honestly, I think listening to your podcast gave me a lot of insight. At the time, it was Aaron's podcast, but that's what got my attention to Dev 30 and eventually got me into Parsity. So just kind of like hearing different point of views of people's experiences in the industry and really deciding if like that's the type of lifestyle you want, because especially in a lot of tech roles now, they're remote, work from home, and not everybody is built for that. You really have to be self-motivated to do it. Or in my case, like going the freelance route instead, like running your own business and not having anybody else to rely on is like a new special kind of stress that I have never experienced before. Yeah. So I think just like doing your research and hearing multiple point of views instead of just one person, glorified story, success story.
I appreciate you saying that. And I think you're spot on. The reality is like learning to code is tough. Getting a job is tough. The get rich quick scheme idea or selling point, it attracts the wrong people, I think, to programs. And I think it's better you have like a real be like, hey, this is a skill. It's a highly paid skill you can take. Will it get you exactly where you want to be immediately afterwards? Likely not. Are there other alternative routes which aren't so obvious that you can take with this skill? Of course. I mean, I think there's a lot of things you can do with coding as a foundation, which aren't always necessarily writing code for a living. I mean, I've definitely met people that say, okay, cool, I learned this and now I'm going to do something completely different. I remember teaching a woman that had a business. She was already like a CEO of a fairly well-established startup, and she just wanted to learn how to code just so she could have better rapport with the engineers and like take more technical lead direction over this small company she ran. And I thought, wow, that's pretty amazing that she's spending like, 6 months in a boot camp on top of her job to learn this thing just so she can like, she had no intention of writing code ever. She just wanted to be able to like understand what was going on at a more minute level. I think there's probably better ways to do that.
Yeah, maybe.
I was impressed nonetheless. Man, that's a lot of dedication. This is also like 7 years ago. So you didn't have things like ChatGPT, which could easily explain some code like you do nowadays. Right. Yeah. I wonder if she regrets that. Maybe I'll have her on the podcast so I can track her down. Carly, any last words for people out there?
Learn to code.
I like it. Thank you so much for being here today. Really, really had a fun time talking with you. Thank you for your honesty. Well,
yeah, thank you.
That'll do it for today's episode of the Develop Yourself podcast. To learn more about becoming a software engineer with us, then check out Parsity.io. If you're not quite ready for that, then jump into our dev30.xyz program, which is 30 days of working on your mindset, habits, and JavaScript skills. Totally worth it. See you next week.